Alright, response video to a heroin church video, unfortunately. Yes, he has switched sides, so to speak, and become a nihilist. So much to say about this whole thing. He has been, he has done this in the past, okay? He had this old screen name called Love That Soy, and he was kind of erratic, and he made a couple of videos that were just, horrible. They were personally offensive to me. I had blocked him. I just said, fuck you, you turd. Leave me the fuck alone. So then he got re-rational again. I guess he, dried out or whatever. And so he's been emotionally erratic in these video productions. Deleted all his videos to come back. He deletes them, little things. Crying in some videos. So yeah, he's living his life on YouTube. And I'm not saying there's a crime in that. That's okay. You want to emotionally live on YouTube. That's okay. But yeah, it's not really doing philosophy. Philosophy really should be left for people who really know what they're talking about. Know it. Not like, I think, maybe, possibly that's right. No, know it. To their core, they know it. They would invest themselves in it. They're sure. You really shouldn't be a proselytizer for something. You really shouldn't be selling something, like cars. If you were a car salesman, you'd want to know that the car didn't kill people, that it wasn't a menace on the highway, that it didn't have horrible brakes, or that, you'd want to know these things. You don't want to be selling crap. And so you really shouldn't philosophize on the internet unless you really kind of know what you're talking about, or else you kind of just label your videos, I'm just talking out of my ass, maybe possibly we do have an invisible hole in our head, and fire is the some sort of mechanism with which you, tuning fork your way to the singularity or some kind of other bullshit religious nonsense. That's fine. So anyway, this video, I'll go into what he says here, which is just kind of amazing. In terms of there's more in what he said than what he said. So first off, I'll say, okay, let's just say he's joking. Let's just say this is some kind of bizarre satire. This retraction or conversion video. He's just doing a Brett Keane or something. It doesn't matter. Who needs this shit? Who needs to be jerked around by people who think it's an argument to play a game? So if that's the game, it's some sort of deception or some sort of game, well then fuck this. Fuck this person for that reason alone. Who needs it? Who needs that in this environment? Another context to this is, I kind of had a good day. There was the old fan thing, and that was kind of just a miraculous thing. And this little stab in the back, with no PM, no conversation with me at all before he made this video, is just really scumbag kind of behavior. Just really do not understand how this is going to be problematic for me. Now I'm going to have to explain how one of my, cult members, has somehow been seen the light, seen some profound flaw in the fundamental premise of the argument that's being made about what is important here. So let's go to it. So he's basically saying now, okay, the antinatalism thing is kind of irrelevant to him. He hasn't had kids. He's not great on the whole existence thing, but personally, he just doesn't care, okay? Because he's thinking now his consciousness is the only consciousness he has to be concerned about. So anytime he said anything about vegetarianism or animal welfare or made any argument about nature in his arguments about antinatalism, apparently that was all just a lie. He doesn't give a fuck about animals. He doesn't give a fuck what happens to them because they're not his consciousness. He's not going to reincarnate and become them. He's not going to reincarnate and become the ones that exist now or the ones that will exist in the future. None of those things, welfare, makes any difference to him. He doesn't care what their fate is. He doesn't think it's worth any human being taking any time out of their busy day to consider the welfare of all those sentients. Now, I would argue that I guess then the only reason why you care about anything is because it makes you cry. If it makes you cry, then it's worth something. So it was never about thinking. It was never about understanding. It's just about what moves you personally. Okay? And you aren't personally moved, or never were really personally moved, by what happens to other sentient creatures. Okay? Because they're not your consciousness. Because theoretically, that's the argument. The animals that exist today are the same as the animals that will exist 100 years from now. Their welfare is indistinguishable. The people who died in World War II were just as real as the people that exist right now. All right, they weren't less real. So that's part of the second part of his argument is that because I used reincarnation as a metaphor to illustrate how I became motivated, to illustrate how I fully understood that the game we're caught up in isn't about one pawn. It's not about one bishop or one knight or one king or one queen. It's about a mechanism, and it's about the collective of pawns, the collective, the whole thing. What's it do in net? And what it does is dispose of players. It disposes of pieces, and often harshly. And I can certainly understand that it's mere chance that decides which one is me. Which one gets called me. Everybody's saying me. Everybody's saying the same word. They're all saying me. It's me. This is me. This is me. I am me. Everyone is saying that. Everyone is a fucking me. And so even if I just left it there, that all people are one because they're all me's. They're all indistinguishable on some basic core level in that they are all experiencing life. They are all having this experience, something similar to it. So in essence, there's not much difference between my eyes looking at Schopenhauer's image and your eyes looking at Schopenhauer's image and somebody else's eye. It's the same thing happening. So we can understand that. We can appreciate that and say that's a kind of living vicariously or in real substance through everyone. Because we're all doing this thing called meing. So then, if you just project this into the future, like I said, there's 7 billion people on this planet. It would be ludicrous to say, oh, there aren't other people who are experiencing life very similar to the way I'm experiencing it, who don't have the same kind of attachments and tastes and way of navigating and values and things that hurt them and things that please them, and that it would be very much the same kind of person. So there are people out there right now who you could classify as 1 in a million. That would mean it'll be 1,000 of me. No, 6,000. So if I was 1 in 1 million, if you took 1 million people and divided them up and classified them and all that kind of stuff, and I was the one, even if it was only 1 in a million, it would still be 6,000 other people who are living life as me, functionally. Pretty much the same thing. Okay, they're not holding a camera right now. They're not, they don't have this bottle on their desk, but you get my point. We can find enough similarity to say, what's the difference? Okay? I mean, you're not going to say a Corvette isn't a Corvette because one has a picture of a naked lady on the hood and one doesn't have a picture of a naked lady on the hood. They're both Corvettes. Or however you want to describe the circumstance. It's the same difference. And so I'm just arguing that that if you can't do it through empathy, as we do through animals, where we're recognizing it's another consciousness and I still care about it, I've extended my understanding of welfare, my understanding that pain and suffering is bad, and I've extended it to include these other sentient things that I can do something for, or that I'm aware of, and I can feel their pain. I can worry for them. I can extend my intelligence and devote it to more than just my welfare. I can incorporate in my intelligence an understanding that their welfare is also important. Well, even if you can't do it intellectually like that, which I'm saying is the intellectual obligation. It's just patently logical to do that. But even if you fail as a logical, intelligent organism and can't figure out that their interest is just as important as your interest, and you need to do it emotionally, the fact that you can't even appreciate that there's going to be the next you is going to be born into the same circumstance in the future, a similar circumstance, even if it's only 6,000 of you every 30 years, you should at least, in defense of them, be able to understand, I've got to do something to stop that. 6,000 more of this crying on YouTubing? Fuck that. Let's not do that 6,000 times again. So you should be able to make it a personal interest, like your own twin is going to be subjected to some kind of harm in the future. Your clone, your embodiment in the future is going to be subjected to shit because you couldn't say anything now, and you had to say, well, I'm too busy entertaining my own silly fucking consciousness. Great. Brilliant. So yeah, you should be able to do it emotionally with that mechanism. So I've given you two mechanisms. I've given you the emotional incentive, and I've given you the intellectual, logical, you just can't escape it truth. Alright? That doesn't make a difference. What fucking pawn is getting fucking annihilated? Jesus, you people are so fucking stupid. So where else do I want to go with this? Alright, and then there's a third argument. Now the third argument is that you've lived a life, like me, that doesn't include horror. Okay? No absolute horror. Alright? It's bad. There's been stuff. There's been shit. I think I've certainly, because I've lived longer, I've certainly had more shit than you've had yet. But regardless, it's not been horrible. I wasn't born in Indonesia. I wasn't born in China. And I wasn't molested by my father and treated like a fucking servant by my mother and then sent off to a coal mine to die when I was 23. Yeah, that didn't happen to me. But the fact that I know it's fucking happening here should scare the motherfucking shit out of me logically. That this is what consciousness is going to be subjected to tomorrow, because these assholes will take no responsibility for what's going on. There will be wars. People will be horribly injured. Little kids will have their faces burned off of them. This shit will take place. I wouldn't volunteer to be any of those victims for the sake of humanity. I wouldn't do it for that purpose. Just to continue the human race, you now will live the life of the fucking horrible, deformed, tortured victim. You will be given leukemia and elephant man disease and ALS. I mean, the fact that you have had the privileged life and still find life revolting should give you a little bit of a signal that this is really a problem. Me being here is irrelevant. Whether I live or die does not fucking matter, because there's 7 billion of these human things and there are 100 trillion of these non-human things going through absolute fucking horror. I mean, there's really no more argument to be made. I'm disappointed that you're philosophizing and your claims of intelligence and everything else that you do, your pontificating, was so superficial and so insincere. Because it can't be anything else for you to make a video this fucking stupid. It really can't have been. You're just mimicking words. You've learned a vocabulary, and you've learned to be an obnoxious and elitist and arrogant. You've learned all of those functionalities, but quite obviously there was nothing behind any of it. And again, if this is just some sort of joke, it's such a bad joke. It's such a fucking irritating horrifically terrible joke, that for that alone, I don't have any more patience for you. So, yeah, all I can say is thanks for wasting my time, and go away, silly person. Just go, yes, go wallow in your selfish luxury, all right, and pretend you're not sentencing things better than you to a worse fate. Bravo. You're harming things better than you, okay, to save your own comfort. Whew, man, you suck. Yeah. So, whatever. Goodbye. Ugh.